Thanks for tuning in to more NASCAR talk on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, joined by CJ Radune of RotoWire. How's it going, CJ?
It is going well. Had a good Atlanta race. We shall see what happens this weekend at a full race for North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit because there has not been a race at North Wilkesboro for quite a long time, obviously pre-next gen. So it's going to be very difficult to handicap this week's race. We'll do the best we can. We're going to get into a few other topics, though, in the meanwhile, since we have a little bit extra time this week, just based on the fact that, again, we do not have a whole lot of data from the track to go over years of trends and things of that nature. But there are some things we want to talk about. I'll try to put a timer on this video so you can check it out if you're not interested in what we have to say other than previewing the race. So let's kind of start off with Atlanta and what a great race it was and how it's unfortunate, but NASCAR just needs to have more races like this. I don't know what else to say. It was one of, if not clearly the best race of the season. I think the only reason that you can't really say it's the best race of the season is because of the delay. 3 hours is just crazy. The fact that they restarted at midnight is crazy. And the fact that they ended the race at 2 a.m. is crazy. It kind of reminds me of, I remember I watched a race a long time ago, might have been 10 years ago or something like that. And it was at Charlotte. And I remember that race lasted all the way into the 2 o'clock, whatever. It's the last time I remember watching a race that late. And of course, I don't have to, go somewhere to work, or I have to be ready for work with people who pay my salary like you do and others do. So I debated whether or not I was going to stay up. I knew what was going on. I looked at the radar. Radar said it was going to be open. So they waited. They were going to continue to wait, and this was going to happen. But I just decided the race was so good, and Blaney was kicking ass at this point. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to, I don't have anybody to answer to but myself. I'm going to have a shitty day tomorrow, but I'll deal with it, which I did. And it was worth it. Of course, it might not have been worth it, but it was worth it. But like I said, yeah, they just need more races like this.
Yeah, it was an excellent race. I think I told you my recording, because of the 3 hour delay, cut off right at the end of stage 2. So I did not get to see the full end of the final stage, but I did watch highlights. And obviously up until that point, everything was great about it. It very much reminded me of not the Talladega and Daytona that we have today and have had for the past couple of years, but it reminded me of when the cars at those tracks were able to segregate themselves a little bit. They didn't have to run in a train nose to tail the entire way. They were able to get, like the good cars were able to actually make some distance from the guys that were behind. And if the guys that were behind got a good run, if they were able to improve their car or whatever the case may be, they were able to catch them and come back to the fight and actually have some passes and stuff. So I thought it was great. The banking definitely helps. It's very steep banking in Atlanta. The rules package makes a huge difference. Obviously, it keeps everybody relatively bunched together, but it's still differentiated between the drivers, their abilities to hang on, as well as manage their equipment and the setups that they have. So I think it was a perfect balance of everything that we've been looking for.
And another win. A matter of fact,
Finally,
on the last lap, there was about a 5-second time where you had your first, second, and third picks all there. And Blaney, Wallace, and who was the other one? Hocevar. So that lasted a few seconds, but that was kind of cool. And so, we're up another. I think we started the week at plus 15 something. So obviously, Blaney was 9-1, and he was top pick, which is you probably earned about a good 400, I think, somewhere in there. Which minus my 100 probably boosted up. We're getting closer to 2,000 again, which is good because we had that bad stretch of about a month or so between the road courses and all those dominating wins by Denny Hamlin, which we did not take with his low prices. So we're getting back. And that's a good. That's good. We're heading in the right direction. Back-to-back wins, so we're in good shape. Anyway, we also have to give props where props are due with NASCAR by not ending the race under caution, which in years past they could have, they would have. It's happened before, and that was great to see. Now, if it was a much bigger accident, who knows? But still, it was there was an accident, and they decided to let it roll, and so we got to give them a lot of credit for that. And again, I just don't think this is a coincidence based on what happened in the offseason. I think these are the little things they're trying to do because again, it's the communication with the drivers, and if the drivers are willing to deal with it, it's their lives we're talking about. Oh, we need that every second counts with the caution deal. Then I'm sure they would tell you. They would say, "Look, we agree with the fact that you're rolling the cautions out there," but I don't think most drivers care about that. Most drivers care about winning. That's the reason they do this for a living. They're willing to forego an extra 15 seconds if they know they're in position to win a race and they get screwed because of the caution. So props to NASCAR.
Yeah, they definitely want to race to the end. NASCAR has said before that if there is imminent danger, they will throw the caution. If there's not, they'll do everything they can to keep it going. And that was one case where they kept it going. So all worked out.
Okay. Now, a couple of things regarding the race I want to get to. We're not going to be able to show it, but we'll be able to have it on audio. This is, of course, from my YouTube account. And it works out perfectly because for some weird reason, whenever I slide my YouTube account to my second monitor, they black out everything. It's like, and I've been on the phone with YouTube about this, and they don't understand why it happens, but who knows? Maybe they don't tell the technicians. I'm sure that they do it on purpose, but it works out for us because we can't show you anyway, or else we'd get flagged. So what I want to first of all start with is check this out. So this was later in the race, a couple hours, about an hour and a half before the race ended. And this is just a pet peeve of mine, but listen to the broadcast and then you'll see what I was upset about.
For the inside of the 22 car, he's trying to figure out how to time a run to do it. Not getting a ton of help right now from Bubba Wallace.
Run lower down the backstretch. I need to protect my bottom from him. Yeah, don't trust that car behind me there, so we got to cover.
More instruction from Logano to Blaney. Well, the third team Penske car, Cindric, trash.
Okay, so basically what happened there is Dale's giving his analysis about something, and the director of the broadcast decides, hey, let's cut in now so they can hear what's going on. And let's not let Junior know it. Let's just cut him off and play the audio and don't prep him at all for it. Don't even tell him where it's coming from. Just cut Dale Jr. off. I think that makes sense. Do it. I mean, that's just who is directing these things? Now, again, this is TNT, so this is not Prime, which we've really had an affinity for, the way that they've produced their race coverage. This is just a prime example of, no pun intended, of why they just don't do a good job.
Yeah, it's been a step backward. We got spoiled with Prime, without a doubt. I have found myself, they're still better than Fox, so I give TBS, or TNT, sorry.
Yeah, they got Dale Jr. Yeah.
Yep. I give them a lot more credit. You understand a lot more of what's going on, and I think they do a better job explaining what factors are at play and why. So I think that's all great, but I think they also have a tendency to overhype things. And they also, like you said, the directing, I found many times where conversations have been ongoing and the in-car audio is playing and they just keep talking over it at the same time. So you've got multiple conversations going on at the same time. That's happened multiple weeks as well. So definitely some cleanup to be done. Thank goodness it's not Fox. They're better than Fox, but they got a ways to go still before they get to Prime. I don't know why they would cut them off for that. I mean, it wasn't clear what was going on in that audio other than somebody saying they need to protect the inside, perhaps. But
it was Logano and Blaney communicating about strategy, and instead of just prepping your true. They just interrupted them, and that's because that was the thing. I mean, they explained it after. You're not supposed to explain it after. You're supposed to explain it before, so we can be ready for what we're about to hear. It's just not good. Okay, so now this happened during the delay. Now, obviously, I didn't watch 3 hours of their coverage on delay, but I was lucky enough to pick this up. And I believe, what is Jeff Burton? Is he with McMurray, the two of them?
Yes.
Is that what the team is?
Yes.
Okay, so they're discussing Carson Hocevar.
Ryan Blaney tonight for the lead, two-time Cup Series champion Kyle Larson. And that young man right there, Carson Hocevar. Guys, I'm fascinated by him. He seems so unencumbered by conflict. Most people aren't wired to be elite or excellent within chaos that seems to follow him like a tornado everywhere he goes.
Well, everybody has a different personality. I would find that really hard. You know,
Me too.
I wanted everybody to like me. It just was my personality. I lived my whole life that way, just always, trying to be nice to everybody and never having controversy, but we're all wired differently. Carson moves the needle, though. And I think that's really important to say, that it doesn't really matter if people like him or they don't. As we were doing that interview and shortly after that interview, when driver intros were going on, I heard a lot of boos and I heard a lot of cheers. And I was pretty sure I knew who was getting cheered and who was getting booed in that moment. And those are great, great memories for us growing up in racing, whether it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. that was getting introed or maybe someone that had wrecked Jeff Gordon the week before getting booed. That's fun when you get in a big crowd like that and you hear all of it. And Carson, he feeds into it. Like when you watch that, I also get a kick out of people that just go crazy on social media over him, defending him or ripping on him. I'm like, he moves the needle. It stirs it up a little bit, and it's fun to watch it all happen.
It is fun to watch it, and he does bring attention. The reality of the situation is the fans love him because of his attitude, and some fans hate him because of his attitude. But we're not racing the fans. We're racing champions. We're racing guys that know how to win races.
And by the way, the platitudes are over. So this is what we're here for.
And, when he comes on and he's very honest and he's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what they think. Bring it on. Like, I'm not trying
They don't want this war.
Yeah, they don't want this war. I'm ready to go. I'm sorry. If I'm a competitor and I'm listening to that, let's go. Like, I think that's the problem for him in regard to having success.
It's different for us because we raced and we know how we would feel if we were in that situation today.
What would you do about it?
I think it's also...
Weren't Jeff Burton and Jamie McMurray considered like the nicest drivers during their time? I mean, because that was a very tough time that they grew up in. They didn't take any shit back in those days. But Jeff Burton and Jamie McMurray, I mean, they had to be on the lighter side of that.
Yeah, and I can tell you personally, two of the nicest guys I've ever met, too. So it's genuine.
Sure.
Yeah.
So difficult because he's so young, right? I mean, obviously, Jeff and I are significant. I mean, Carson could be our kid, right? And so, and I think I said this earlier, but when I look at Carson, my frustration with him comes that if that was Carter McMurray, I would put my arm around him and be like, are you sure this is the path we want, that you want to go down? And if it is, then that's great. But when we talk about it, it's our feelings or emotions are based on how we would treat our own kids.
Well, we also know the reality of the business. And at some point, you have to stop making enemies, because at some point there's more of them than there are you. And then I know he has full support of his owners. I know he has full support of his sponsors. I know he has full support from Luke Lambert, his crew chief, 100%. However, if it continues race after race, year after year, that support will wane. We've seen it over and over and over. Ernie Irvan was one of the very, very best, incredibly aggressive race car driver. He eventually had to stand up.
Okay, here's one part. Okay, so you hear the music coming up. So they're showing highlights. That's normally what happens. What are they showing highlights of?
Probably not Carson Hocevar. I have no idea.
No, well, he just talked about Ernie Irvan, right?
Yeah. Are they showing Ernie Irvan?
No, they're not.
Of course
not. No, this is, again, a problem. he talks about Ernie Irvan. And now even myself, who started paying attention in 2000, some 25 years going, I remember Ernie Irvan, but I needed to see a picture of him to really remember. And then I looked at, okay, I remember him now, but I also kind of remember that he really wasn't, at least when I was watching, he was just a driver. I didn't really care. It's just nobody. But even myself, who's been a 25-year NASCAR fan, can you show me what you're talking about? Can you have prepped the people who were producing and directing the show and say, hey, I'm going to bring up Ernie Irvan. So have some Ernie Irvan highlight clips so people can see exactly what you're talking about. Let me see Ernie Irvan in a wreck. Let me see what he did. But no, all of this highlight stuff was Carson Hocevar. So typical. Anyway, did you remember Ernie Irvan? Do you understand the comparison?
I think there are better comparisons than Ernie Irvan for Hocevar. I think a lot of it is close, but it's not one that's going to resonate with folks that have joined more recently. Even you 25 years ago, like you said, that's not going to resonate with you. There are drivers since then, guaranteed, that you could put them up against. You got Kyle Busch, you got Dale Earnhardt, you got a whole litany of other ones that you could pick. So I think that was a bit of a stretch. It was accurate, but a bit of a stretch for the audience probably that's watching.
Apologize and say, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better. And he did do better. He made that change. Carson can too, and I think Carson will. And by the way, Carson doesn't have to make me think he's doing the right thing. Carson's got to do what he thinks is the right thing. But he said it in our interview. He said, I'm living in the moment and I'm going to learn. And when I get to that point, I'll get to that point. And I suspect he'll have to get to that point sooner or later.
Life gets easier on the racetrack not having enemies.
For sure.
There's a lot of people, like when and it could be that you're lapping someone. It could be that they're in the pit stall in front of you and they're 5 laps down, and how they want to treat you. People pay you back in a lot of different ways, and it might not be something that fans even see. I think it's just
we're talking about him.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like Dale Earnhardt said. It doesn't matter if they're cheering or booing as long as they're saying something. And I'm not comparing Carson Hocevar to Dale Earnhardt.
Sure.
Okay, that's not what I'm doing here. But I remember being a kid and watching Darrell Waltrip and Jeff Bodine call him everything except for a race car driver.
Let me pause you for a second, though. How many races had they won? It's a big difference. And I think as long as Carson can back it up on the track and have significant success by winning 3 or 4 races a year, that's different. That's a significant needle mover. But he's won 1 race at this point, and I don't think that that attitude matches the results.
What was your greatest takeaway from what I thought was an absolutely fantastic and fascinating conversation with him? When you asked your initial question, I was completely gobsmacked by the war comment. They don't want this war. And that's why I just chose to follow up and say, why don't they want this war? And he seems just so fearless to just say, like, there's no filter. He just says what he thinks. He's like, I don't know what their situation is. I know mine's good.
Well, he is clearly telling you exactly what he thinks. And he also is getting support. Right? He's getting support from his owners. He's getting support from his sponsors. He's getting support from the fans, right? And they're backing him up. And to have that attitude, you have to have people that are backing you up. And again, I want to be clear. At the end of the day, we might all look back 5 years from now and say, you know what? He did exactly what he should have been doing. It worked. I just know, and I've watched racing and been part of racing for a long time. Rarely do you not have to back up a little bit in regard to your aggressiveness. Ross Chastain, right? He had to back up, and you can say, well, he's not running as good, but I don't think their cars are as good as they were. So I've been part of this sport for a long time, and some things are always changing, but some things don't ever change. You have to have, the question you asked was respect. People don't have to like you, but ultimately they have to respect you because they are on the racetrack with you. And
so, I thought that was interesting comparison with Chastain because honestly, we really don't know. And we'll have to figure out at some point whether the reason Chastain, the biggest reason he's struggling is the car, as opposed to he has changed, because we don't know. And I don't think he knows. I'd like to have that conversation with him. I'd like to have somebody have that conversation with him, talk about, hey, things haven't been going well for you. What's changed? And see what he says. I don't know if anybody's asked him that question.
It'd be a good question to ask. I'm not so sure it's backing up. I mean, I get the point. I understand it. But at the same time, if you're a new driver to this series, you're trying to establish yourself. That's what Hocevar is doing. I feel like that's kind of what he's always done. He's being himself, and he's trying to get himself established here in the Cup Series. And, you know, there are a lot of brash young drivers that come in. Many of them aren't able to back it up with any kind of success. Some of them are, and those are the ones that go on to be super successful and continue it on. And I'm not sure that that hunger necessarily ever changes. I think they get smarter in how they execute and play the game in order to win championships and get what they need to be done to be the top of the sport and win races. And I think there's a level of experience that you get as you come in and as you build, you know, time behind the wheel and you build time with these guys on the track. You learn where you can give, where you need to give, and where you can take, and you continue to take where you can, but you're just more smart about it. I don't know that that's necessarily backing things off. But, you know, like they said, give it another couple of years. We'll see where Hocevar is in terms of the win list, see how successful he's been, if he's been able to establish himself, and if he's still around, you know, running at the top of the field. The thing that really stood out to me was thinking about the 3 wide finish at the end of the race. He was right there. Who did Christopher Bell choose to go with? Ryan.
Sure.
So he didn't win. So Hocevar, no doubt, learned from that. What do I need to do to get Christopher Bell to push me instead of Ryan Blaney? Those are the
great point.
He's going to be asking himself for the next several races and several seasons. And if he figures out what he needs to do in order to get the 20 behind him, then we're going to see all those guys kind of eat their words over the next 5 years. But that's what I would characterize it as, more so than dialing back the aggression per se.
Yeah, he needs to continue that fine line. He needs to stay aggressive, but he also needs to pick his spots. And that's all we want. We don't want to see him change. That's not what we want. Junior even said it himself. And some of the things that were said during that clip from both Burton and McMurray, I agree with. But here's the problem is that they are looking at it because they are former drivers and they're looking at it from a driver point of view. But this is about the fans and entertainment, and we need to be entertained. And the fact of the matter is NASCAR has been a lot less entertaining because we're getting too nice. Everybody's getting respected. We talked about what happened a few weeks ago when Reddick respected Corey Heim. Well, he didn't earn it. Oh, well, I guess he was a teammate. He respected him. I mean, we don't want to see that as fans. I mean, again, I understand the respect factor. There's a way to respect, but there's also a way that, you know, come on, you got to maintain some sort of aggression and some sort of mental tough play that we're just not getting as much as we used to. And it's missing from the sport, unfortunately.
Yeah, we need and Carson Hocevar as a character for sure. So I like.
Okay. I've often, every once in a while, I'll bring up Fontana with you, and I found this video regarding. Let's see who this was. Make sure I have it here. I'll try to put a link in the description. Ethan Trendler. So he's got a NASCAR, and I think he did a really good job because I was just trying to find out what the heck is going on with Fontana.
The naval base they have there. I thought it was a perfect idea to today look at the other NASCAR Southern California track that used to be on the schedule for about 30 years that, of course, NASCAR just recently got rid of. But as you all probably know, it was never supposed to be completely gone from the NASCAR schedule. We were promised by NASCAR that it would actually be reconfigured into a different style of racetrack. But as we know, that never happened. The track currently sits abandoned now and is being demolished. Of course, I'm talking about Auto Club Speedway or Fontana or California Speedway, whatever you want to call it. I personally call it Fontana. This was NASCAR's 2-mile oval in Southern California. For the most part, hosted one race a year, Earlier days, it actually did host 2 races a year, one in the spring, one in the fall, but then a transition to an early season date in the spring. The track was built in 1997 by Roger Penske and one of his business partners on an old abandoned factory. It was similar to, of course, Michigan. That's what the track was designed after, but had different characteristics with the different bumps and lines you could use at this racetrack, unlike Michigan for the most part. And with the exclusion of some of the races in the late 2010s with the 550 package on the 2020 race as well, racing was absolutely fantastic at Fontana and provided so many iconic NASCAR moments. They took a break in 2021, of course, for COVID, but then they returned in 2022, and the racing was absolutely fantastic and electric due to, of course, the brand new next-gen car. This is when we all thought the next-gen car was the best thing in the world. We obviously, for other tracks, are proven wrong. This actually was one of the greatest racetracks for the next-gen cars. The next year in 2023, it put on another incredible show as the late Kyle Busch went to victory lane at the track that he won his first ever race at with his brand new team, Richard Childress Racing. But that 2023 race would end up being the last NASCAR Cup Series race ever at Fontana, California Speedway. And you may be wondering, after all those incredible moments, incredible racing, even with the brand new next-gen car being introduced, why would they get rid of such an amazing and loved racetrack? Well, it was because of something they announced a few years back. Those being NASCAR's plans to turn Auto Club Speedway into a half-mile short track and completely reconfigure the place. They announced this in 2020 after the 2020 race there. That's probably around the time that they announced that they wouldn't be having a 2021 race due to COVID. So like I said earlier, this was probably due to the lack of good racing that they had at the racetrack lately, mostly because of the car and no help from Martin Truex Jr. here in 2018. But another big reason is that land in California sells for a lot. Not really sure why anyone would ever want to live there, but it's besides the point. And by making Fontana into a half-mile short track, that gets rid of 1.5 miles of track length, and that doesn't even account for all the stuff in the infield. That is a lot of land that NASCAR could sell off, and that doesn't even include all of the extra parking lots they could get rid of as well. That means a lot of money could be made. Now, I get that most of that money would probably be used into designing and building the new short track, but whatever the reasons were, NASCAR's plans were announced, and they would be not returning to Fontana after 2023, taking hiatus from the racetrack and building their brand new half-mile short track. So the track was actually supposed to be like Martinsville and Bristol combined. It would have banking in the turns like Bristol, but would have the shape of Martinsville in the straightaways like Martinsville as well. It was a very interesting concept, and myself and a lot of people actually really supported the decision when NASCAR announced this back in 2020. Now, a lot of this was because the racing at Fontana in the last few years was very, very lackluster. I mean, even Alex Bowman won by like 10 seconds in 2020. 19 was pretty bad. 18, Truex won by 11 seconds. You can tell the races were pretty dry and pretty unbearable to watch at that point.
Just imagine the awful foresight that the people at NASCAR had at that moment, to not understand that this could possibly happen when you change your car, that you could have different racing at different tracks. I mean, you would think this is a racing family. Don't they understand these things? How could they just blindly not think, well, what happens when we change the car in a couple of years? What happens if it has a bad effect on short track racing? And we would have been better off keeping the old track. Now, again, everything he says about selling off the land to make it a short track, that's where you got to believe, well, maybe they're not so stupid when it comes to that. Maybe they just didn't care. Maybe it's all about the money, because it's always about the money, which is what we always kind of say whenever these things come up. You know what? I don't know what it is, but it's got to be about the money.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting take that I hadn't thought about. Obviously, you reduce a ton of your footprint in one of the most expensive areas for land in the country. You're able to sell it off, all that good kind of stuff. I think they also were naive about the effects that the car would have. I seem to remember them designing this car to be race better at 1.5 mile ovals in particular. And it was almost like every other track was kind of forgotten about. And then they realized works well on road courses too. So let's throw a bunch of road courses on the calendar too. But I think they overshot or or underestimated, I guess, how good the racing got at places like Michigan and Fontana. And watching those clips makes me nostalgic for Fontana again, because that was a fantastic race and the car worked so well at it. And then to have that be the end of it was just terribly, terribly disappointing. So.
Yep. It just goes on and on. Anyway, I'll put a link in the description for the on-demand viewers. By the time you watch it, you'll be able to check out the rest of the video. Don't think we have enough time to finish it, so I want to move on. We only have about 20 more minutes. If we have more time, we'll go back to it. But we've got a preview. We have a race to preview. Before we do that, want to shout out to a comment from Nick Byer. Nick Byer? Is that what Nick Byer? Best NASCAR betting show by far.
Great taste. Thank you.
No, nothing else to say. Appreciate that. Also appreciate N. Madison for reposting the stream. All that helps us. We appreciate all of your work for our viewers. Anything you can do to help us out, to grow the channel, so we can also gain more exposure, advertising, all that. It's going to help us so we can continue to do what we're doing for you. Okay, so now let's get into this. We have a race to preview that is unique because we haven't been there before with the next gen. So the only thing we have to go on are the all-star races, and that's it. And is it a similar track? Okay, so you think that the most similar track is Richmond?
Yes.
Okay, no Richmond this year, unfortunately, so we'll have to look at last year's Richmond at the very least. And then you would say Martinsville would be a second, kind of, maybe?
Yeah, for tracks that we've raced on so far this year, I would weight Martinsville the heaviest. I think you can get some gleaning from the of what to expect, at least from the All-Star race and the All-Star Open. But remember, this race is going to be almost twice as long, and you're going to have everybody on the track at once versus just half the field.
Unfortunately, when you take a look at those races,
They weren't great.
No. You had just like one or two drivers leading laps.
Yep.
And that was it. So this is going to be very...
What I expect this weekend. Track position is going to make a big difference.
This is going to be very, very stressful. But it's not... I don't know if it's a good idea, but we'll find out. Anybody that's in North Wilkesboro, man, I'm assuming it's going to be sold out. I'm assuming you guys are going to treat this like the Super Bowl. And I certainly hope we have something to, as viewers on television, respect it in some way. We'll find out. Because if you look at it, even just last year, Hocevar won the race, led 46 laps. SVG led 54 laps, and that was it. He finished 13th. In the race, the All-Star race, you had three drivers leading laps. You had Logano was second, led 139 laps. Bell won the race, led 28. Kozlowski also led 62. That was last year. The other drivers that stuck out, well, first of all, we've already talked about one. That's Logano. Logano's a really good pick this week. And we'll get into see what kind of odds respect he's getting. That's because he led 199 of 200 laps in the 2024 All-Star race. Boy, that must have been exciting. And by the way, Ty Gibbs is another one you might want to keep an eye on. He led 100 of 100 laps in the 2024 Open and also led 53 laps in the 2023 Open. While Bubba Wallace finished second in both the 2024 Open and the 2023 All-Star race. So those are some drivers that had moments during the Open and All-Star race. Let's get into it. Who's favorite?
Denny Hamlin.
Okay. Any who else?
Tyler Reddick.
Okay. Oh, you got to go all the way to the right, by the way. I don't know why they did it this week this way, but
yeah.
So Hamlin is 4-1 favorite. Larson, Blaney.
If you would have asked who my third choice was, it would have been Blaney. Bell's
Christopher Bell. Look at these odds. They're all like bunched up.
Yeah.
So you have 4 drivers here, all within 1 point of each other. But Denny Hamlin is the favorite of the race. And look, he sort of looks like he might be heading towards a Tyler Reddick, little lull here. The last few races, up and down. But I understand why he's the favorite. I get it and all that. But I don't know. I'm just kind of feeling, because he had been so hot, winning those races in a row, where he is now, that I'm starting to feel maybe he's going to calm down here a bit. So I'm kind of hesitant. And plus, this is going to be very tough because you have 4 drivers between 4 and 5 to 1. So we're getting no value at all from 4 drivers. And so we have to try and pick one of those drivers out of the 4, which is very hard to do. And then even if we win, we're not really making a whole lot. We're basically be lucky if we get our money back. So this is not a very good race to handicap or to make money on unless it's not the favorites. So let's see what we can do here. Also, as far as the drivers, Larson, same thing again. He was in a groove for a little bit. The groove is no more. Back-to-back bad situations. He had his wreck twice on the race over the weekend, and it's just not working out for Kyle Larson right now. Whereas Ryan Blaney is now in a run of 10 straight of 11th or better, including the dominating win. And he was 3rd at Richmond last year. So the question is, now that Blaney has got his win, will he be able to keep that up? We've seen other drivers win multiple races this year in a row. Is he really going to be that hot that he's going to keep going? So and then Christopher Bell also, who is who's actually 4 to 1 at Bovada. In his last 3 races, he's finished second, and 5th. And he did not have a good result at Richmond last year. Did have a top 10 at Martinsville.
Yeah, I remember Denny Hamlin at Martinsville led 292 laps before Chase Elliott got him and won the race. Hamlin still finished second. We talked a little bit earlier today. These are the same tires that they raced at Martinsville. So to the extent that, track position is going to be absolute king here. Whoever qualifies inside the top 5 is probably going to finish inside the top 5. I want to say like a full quarter of the races, and this is only up to 1996, of course, but a full quarter of the races in NASCAR history at North Wilkesboro have been won from the pole. Like 60-some, almost 70% have been won from starting inside the top 5, and 3/4, I think, have been won by someone starting inside the top 10. So take that for what it's worth. You're going to have to start in one of the front rows. Denny Hamlin, like I said, just led a ton of laps in Martinsville. They're going to be on the same tire. If we get long green flag runs here, it's going to be all about tire management. Otherwise, it's going to be track position. If we get the long green flag runs, then look for guys like Denny Hamlin and a couple of others that we haven't talked about here. But, honestly, within this group, Denny Hamlin's been the one so far this year that's proven that he can do it both, with the tire and at a short track. And he's been the best short track racer. So out of this group, even though he's a little bit of a discount, all of them are basically equal. I would still go with Denny Hamlin.
Okay, next threesome. Logano, Byron, and Elliott. And Logano is the interesting one here because he's 16 to 1 at my sports book. So you're not getting a lot of value here at DraftKings, unfortunately, because now 10 to 1 is 16 to 1. It was nice. It was good value. And the reason being, we told you how good he is here at North Wilkesboro in those opens and all those all-star races. He's also finished 9th and 12th in his last 2 races. Now, that's not great, but it's okay. Now, get this. That ties for the second best 2-race result by Joey Logano on the season. That's how bad his season has been. Meaning, now this is a good thing. meaning that he's now just completed his 2 best back-to-back results, tied for the second most all season. So he's heading in the right direction. He's coming to a track he's had a lot of success at. He was 3rd at Martinsville. Let's see, and also 4th at Richmond last year.
Yep.
So I think Logano's a really good play. Byron could be interesting. He's got 2 top 5s in his last 13 races, which is not good. But in his last 3 races this year, 16th, 4th, and 12th, it's his best 3-race stretch since March. So another driver that has not been going all that well, but recently it looks like Byron is slowly coming out of it. And he was 5th at Martinsville, 12th at Richmond. And then the other one is Chase Elliott, who has not had a top 5 since his Texas win. That's 9 races. But and that includes 5 straight between the 11th and 17th positions. Okay, so it's not like he's been terrible. It's just been outside the top 10 and obviously the top 5. But keep in mind, Elliott was the winner, as you mentioned, at Martinsville.
Yeah, he only led 84 laps compared to Hamlin's 292, but he did win. I think Elliott is one that can manage his tires well. So again, if we get to the long green flag runs, I would expect Chase Elliott to be up there. But looking at the all-star races, which again, you got to take with a grain of salt, he basically finished where he started. William Byron kind of did nothing, to be honest with you. There was one race where he finished where he started, another race where he had problems. But Joey Logano, 3rd at Martinsville, won the All-Star race, finished 2nd in the second one last year. So I think Logano, without a doubt, is one of your top choices this week.
Okay. Look at Tyler Reddick at 16-1. Gibbs at 17, Briscoe at 18. We have 3 Toyotas here getting value, but keep in mind, Tyler Reddick won top 5 in his last 7 races, 8th last week. So that may be a good sign. Did not have a good result at Richmond last year. Did not have a good result at Martinsville this year. So there's that. But at least now you're getting better value. Gibbs at 17-1. Taking a look there, we told you his success in the Open, and he won that 2024 race, leading every lap. He was also 2nd in the 2023 Open, leading the most laps there. Never translated that, by the way, to the All-Star race. This year, last 3 races, 4th, 8th, and 3rd, and he was 4th at Martinsville. Briscoe, meanwhile, take a look at Chase coming off that win a few starts ago. Got in a wreck last week. One of the very few. That was another great thing about the race on Sunday. Not a lot of wrecks, and that was great to see. Anyway, he had no top 10s at Martinsville and Richmond in his last 2 races. So, Gibbs seems to be the one out of these 3. But again, Reddick is getting some better value now.
Yeah, I think Gibbs is a good choice. On the alternative side of tire management, where if we have long green flag runs, look to guys like Dan Hamlin, Joey Logano comes to mind certainly as well. If we get to that situation, I think we're going to see some bumping and banging too.
I hope so.
It's really hard to make passes at this track, so you're going to have to move people out of the way. So some aggression is going to have to come in. Ty Gibbs is no stranger to that, and I think he's proven that he can do that in the All-Star races. Keep in mind that he dominated the Opens and then transferred into the All-Star race, and when you do that, you have to start at the rear of the field. Yet he's able to make up spaces in there. So again, with a straight up qualifying against the rest of the field, let's see how Ty Gibbs is able to do. Let's see where he starts. And I bet you even if he's got a sniff inside the top 10, he's going to be bumping and banging his way to get to the front. So I do think Ty Gibbs is a good play here.
Next up, Hocevar, Buscher, and Priest. And Hocevar coming off the 3rd place finish last week. That is his 2nd top 5 in his last 10 races since his win at Talladega. 17th Martinsville, 11th New Hampshire. Buscher, the Buscher Keselowski Priest team just does not look good in this one. I don't have a lot of positive data on these guys. I'm sure Keselowski is going to be popping in here somewhere. But anyway, not really feeling it for any of these 3, but I would I would go with Hocevar if I had to.
I think Hocevar is a good choice on the aggression side. Though looking at Martinsville, he started inside the top 10, but finished outside of the top 10. I think he just snuck in at 17. So he just hit the top 20 there. So that's not encouraging. Chris Buescher is better at managing tires. The whole RFK racing team is really good on rough surfaces, and this is a very rough surface. So if tire wear comes into play with long green flag runs, I think Buescher and Keselowski should be up there as well. Honestly, I'd probably still go with Hocevar this week, though.
There's Keselowski at the bottom at 50-1, and things have just not gone well for him. No top 10s in his last 12 races. Bubba and Chastain are 35-1, and Bubba did once again at Atlanta what he did earlier this year in Atlanta, and that is he choked. He did come pretty close to making a fantastic move, I must say that. He just went under the line, which you're not supposed to do. If he would have been able to figure that out and not go under the line, it would have been a very good move. It would put him in position to win the race, but he just didn't do it correctly and finished way back results-wise because of it. Anyway, on the year in his last 6 races, he's been very inconsistent. Now check this out. He's finished either 2nd, 3rd, or 6th, or 21st, 22nd, 29th. And since the start of the season, this is just some bonus goofy trends, just, because I had time without any data on these tracks. Since the start of the season, Wallace has been at his best at every other race. Now, what does that mean? That means if you look at the very beginning of the season at Daytona and just go every other after that, that's 20 races all the way through. That's 10 races each. Okay. Daytona, Atlanta, 10 each. After that, every other. If you go by the first every other, which is Daytona, his average finish is 11.3. If you go by the Atlanta every other, his average is 22.8. I have no idea why. It just means that he's been extremely inconsistent. If that's what that means, is he can't put back to back good races together. And if you just want to go by that trend, he should have a good week this week. So keep that in mind. And again, he did have good data at the All-Star race open or the race itself. So that's something too. And he's getting 35-1, so that's pretty valuable. Chastain, meanwhile, 12.3 average in his last 6 races with 2 top 10s. So he's also slowly starting to race better, even though he hasn't been anywhere near the top 5 lately.
Yeah, this group, I'd probably go with Wallace or Keselowski again. I still need to wait to see where they qualify, though, because they're going to have to start inside the top 10. Keselowski, from a tire management perspective, if he's able to qualify inside the top 10 long green flag runs, I think those play his strengths. Bubba Wallace has been able to move forward at North Wilkesboro in the races that he's had, whether they be the Open or the All-Star race. He's just never started well. So we'll see where he starts this weekend. If he starts up front, I'd be willing to go with him. But if I were choosing today, I might go with Keselowski just because of the long green flag runs and tire management.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to also wager, because if they do qualify well, those odds are going to drop considerably based on what you're saying, which is true. So you're really going to maybe have to look at some of these drivers that have qualified well in the past. Maybe they've qualified well in the short tracks as opposed to the larger tracks, that sort of thing. So look into that kind of stuff. You got to look into all sorts of really goofy trends this week to try to get your best handicapping tools. Okay. Cindric, Berry, and Suarez. What's interesting here is that Cindric has, check this out. He's got a 14.5 average over his last 6 races, only 1 top 5 on the year though, but he's only finished 27th or worst once since Las Vegas. So he's been very consistent. He was 8th at Martinsville, 5th at Richmond last year. So that's good. Josh Berry, who's been a complete disaster, actually has raced good on these tracks. But 65-1 seems to be a lot lower than I expected. He's 125-1 on my sports book. That seems more normal. And Daniel Suarez does not have a top 5 since his win in the Coke race. He was 7th at Richmond last year.
Yeah, the thing that stands out for me out of this group would be Cindric's 8th place finish at Martinsville. Again, it's going to depend on where he qualifies, though, because if he starts at the back in the All-Star race, he finishes at the back. If he starts in the front, he's generally having a better race.
As far as the rest, Bowman was second at Richmond last year, and his last 3 races, he finished 22nd, 5th, and 10th. So he might be a nice long shot to consider. Austin Dillon won Richmond last year, so right there, that's a potential sign. He's coming off only his second top 10 of the season last week. And Shane Van Gisbergen is also here, and he actually finished 11th at Martinsville and 14th at Richmond last year, which for SVG is actually pretty good.
SVG is actually very good on the short tracks. And remember, he qualified on pole for the 62 laps until I think he ended up, I think it was contact perhaps, or definitely had some kind of problem that knocked him out of the lead. Otherwise, probably would have been able to stay up there. So I wouldn't mind from a fantasy perspective going with SVG regardless of where he qualifies, just because I think he's better than anticipated at these short tracks.
Yeah, I think some of those others we just talked about as well, good options for your fantasy bargains, Bowman, Cindric, drivers like that. Okay. Let's see, run him out here. That was McDowell. He's at 100-1. There's Jones, and then the rest. Any of these drivers stick out for you?
Why not Zane Smith? We talk about him every week. This is a place where a little bit of aggression can go a long way, so I wouldn't put it beyond him. And we know Fords can be pretty gentle on the tires, so throw Zane Smith in there too.
Yeah, I mean, Eric Jones, I would look at him too. In his last 6 non-road races, he's got an 8.6 average. Unfortunately, he did not race well at Martinsville or Richmond, but he's been a different driver lately. So you got to take that into account. And Zane Smith was 11th at Richmond last year, which is pretty good.
Finished All-Star Open last year too.
Okay. So let's get into our picks. Where the hell do I have that? Oh, here we go. I go first, right?
Yes, you do.
Okay. I am going to go with Bell.
I will go with Hamlin.
I will go with Logano.
You took my second choice. I'll take Gibbs.
Okay. And I will official long shot. I will go with, man, I hate to do this, but I'll go with Bubba Wallace.
I'll go with Brad Keselowski.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a good one. All right. So there you go. That's our handicapping report for this week's race at North Wilkesboro. The what is this race called again? The Windows World 450?
Window World 450.
So I'm assuming whatever it sounds like the product we are envisioning in our heads. This is a window company.
Yes, they install, make windows for your home. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. That is they must have some deal with NASCAR. All the owners and everybody's homes get treated by Windows World. We'll give you a sponsorship at North Wilkesboro. All right. So that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back on Saturday after qualifying and practice. So that should be very important. You want to tune in for that sometime on Saturday night. And I'm not sure if there's a race at O'Reilly this week. I know they're going to be taking some weeks off soon. So I don't know if that's the case or not. But don't forget, check out on Friday, link in the description of this video, CJ's report at rotowire.com. That's his DFS report on the race. You could also, if you want, wait until the show on Saturday, and I'll have an updated link where you can check it out when the report is available, which comes out every Friday. CJ, appreciate your time as always. We'll do this again next Tuesday. It should be fun recapping this race.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for everybody for